What's up, everybody? Welcome to an emergency podcast because the U.S. men's national team roster for the World Cup has been leaked. I'm Jimmy Conrad alongside Tony Meola, not Charlie Davies, but we have Paul Tenorio from The Athletic joining us. Paul, well, you know what? I'm going to get your thought. We got to do the roster first. Everybody wants to know the names, okay? So we're going to goalkeepers, Matt Freese, Matt Turner, Chris Brady. No big surprises there. Chris Richards, Tim Ream, Mark McKenzie, Austin Trusty, Miles Robinson. No big surprises there. Anthony Robinson, Serginho Dest, Alex Freeman, Joe Scally, Max Arfson. No big surprises there. Tyler Adams, Weston McKinney, Christian Roldan, Sebastian Berhalter. No Tanner Tessmann. That's a big surprise. We got some attacking players. Pulisic, Weah, Tillman, Reyna, Brendan Aronson, Alejandro Zendejas makes the list. And Flo Balogun, Ricardo Pepi, and Haji Wright. Those are the names. Paul, that's what's being... Wait, listen. Did U.S. Soccer really think they could announce it to the players 3 days before and it wouldn't get leaked to the press? Are they insane?
4 days before, Jimmy.
4 days.
4 days.
Sorry, I'm not even doing my math right.
Friday afternoon, players were informed. The announcement's not till Tuesday. So let's put that big caveat up there, right? Stuff can change between now and Tuesday, right? There's games this weekend. MLS games in Europe. Guys can get hurt. The official roster to FIFA does not have to get submitted until June 1st.
Okay.
So what they announce on Tuesday could change between now and June 1st. There's still 11 days between June 1st and June 12th. You get an emergency replacement if a guy gets hurt in that. So all of that being said, there are some big surprises here, Jimmy. I mean, Gio Reyna is in for me. That was a surprise as a bubble guy. I think a polarizing guy. Tanner Tessmann out. And Tanner Tessmann out with only 4 central midfielders in this roster, and one of those being Weston McKinney. That's a big one for me. Clearly you have to think Chris Richards' injury factored into bringing 5 center backs. Miles Robinson comes on. Joe Scally and Freeman, both guys that are swing guys, 10 defenders on this roster. A lot. I think there's a lot of talking points here. Zendejas is another one.
There seems to be some duplication, Big Tones, right? You could have brought Tessmann, who's a different player profile than a Roldan and Berhalter, but he decides to go with Roldan and Berhalter and leave Tessmann at home. I agree with you that you're adding another center back, maybe because of Richards' ankle. Maybe it's a little bit more severe than we think. Joe Scally, Alex Freeman. I mean, Freeman's better than Scally for me, but they could do the same roles. Tessmann could play center back as well. Tessmann's a big miss for me, but yeah, any other surprises for you, Tones?
No, I think I'm trying to look back at what we had predicted over the last couple of weeks, and I think we had 10 defenders. We had all these 10 defenders in here for a while. We did say that we were thinking 10 defenders, and I'm counting fullbacks, obviously, might be a little bit too much. The surprise is only 4 midfielders, right? Christian Roldan was a bubble guy for us, although we said nobody would be surprised if Pochettino takes him. I think the big surprise is no Tessmann. Now, he has got a little bit of an injury. I don't know if that is bigger than we thought. Who knows? Or he just doesn't like what he offers this group, right? I'm thrilled about Zendejas being in the roster.
I'm excited for him.
Yeah, because I kind of was getting the feeling like he just didn't seem like one of Pochettino's favorites, if you will. And we haven't been in any of those conversations. It just was one of those senses you got. Luna obviously is a guy that people thought would be in this roster, but it's not a huge surprise that if you take Gio Reyna and you take Zendejas, in the discussion we've had forever, you can't have them all, right? So you got to kind of pick your poison, and that's what Pochettino has done. I don't mind this roster. I would like to see a 5th midfielder in there, if you will, especially because Weston is listed in that category, which Paul, Jimmy will tell you, we're big fans of having him a little bit deeper because we know he's always going to end up getting in the box. But I don't know that there's a major surprise in this thing for me.
I mean, honestly, if you took Scally out of this roster and you put Tessmann in it, I think I'd be completely fine with it. Like, I just think that there's just that little bit of balance that feels off. But clearly, I think we have to acknowledge this is probably like we're playing 3 center backs with the 2 wing backs, however you want to call it, build with 3, defend in 4, however he wants to phrase it. They're going to play 3 center
Jimmy?
backs.
When do we cheer for that comment by Tenorio?
Yes, I was waiting. I'm happy. We were pining for that for quite some time because it fits our player pool the best. But keep going,
they did it in the fall to great success, and then he tinkered with it in March. I think he was just almost maybe messing with I don't know what he was doing, just trying things out. Christian Pulisic started as a number 9. Like, I think this roster, and you look at it, it's that sort of acknowledgement. We're going to play with 3. Maybe that means you feel a little bit more stable defensively. And so you feel fine with Adams sitting in front and having Weston, because Weston's going to roam, right? He's going to push around. He's going to get higher up the field. the key is going to be spacing, and it gives you some options, right? You can play Pulisic with Tillman. You can play a Zendejas or an Aronson. They all provide different types of options next to Pulisic. Tim Weah, he's another one. Where does he fit into this? Is he competing with Dest for the starting wingback spot? So some interesting decision. But yeah, I mean, I think overall the Tessmann one is the only one that I put my alarm bell up and say I would have liked to see the guy on the roster, because if Adams does get hurt, you're starting Roldan. And by the way, I'm a big Roldan fan. Like, I actually am rooting to see Roldan play in Seattle at the very least. I think the guys would be galvanized seeing him on the field, but I don't know. That's the one for me.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about Tessmann is that and we'll get into this more on our reveal show on Tuesday when it's made official by U.S. Soccer. But when I think about Tessmann, we were talking about him starting next to Tyler Adams.
Mm-hmm.
Not will he make the roster? It's starting. So that is pretty mind-blowing. And I do think you make a good shout that if we have enough cover in the back, Joe Scally could have made way for Tessmann if you wanted to keep Berhalter and Roldan. And we could argue, and we talked about this on one of our previous shows recently, that you could have maybe not brought Max Arfston, because you see Dest playing that side for PSV consistently. Way is comfortable over there if you need in a pinch. Jedi's going to be the guy that's running out there 90 minutes all the time anyway, most likely. So, yeah, there's two spots that you could have maybe made a different decision. And so, yeah, we're going to have to obviously poke some holes in what we're seeing and what we're doing. But, yeah, ultimately, I'm going to say this, and I'm going to use what Big Tones has been saying. Tones, I think you said this maybe a year ago, that whenever the team is named, we're just going to fully get back behind the team, right? And that's where I am at this point. Even though I'm gutted for Tanner Tessmann, I'm excited for the players that got called in, and I'm very curious as to how Mauricio Pochettino is going to explain some of his decision making, and really, how does he think the puzzle pieces are going to fit based on his personnel, which I don't know if he's necessarily done clear cut, but I feel like this is as good a time as any once you name the roster about how everything's going to fit. So what do you think, Tones?
Quickly, Tones,
Yeah.
You did mention this, Jimmy, but I do want to shout out that two of the guys that are controversially left off the roster, if you want to say that, is Luna and Tessmann, both guys carrying small injuries, right? Luna's not playing for Salt Lake right now. He's had a muscle thing. Tessmann was shut down for the rest of the season. Maybe that factored in as well. So I do want to give that. Those two guys happen to be left off, also happen to have injuries.
Yeah, it seems like we make some rules for some players and some rules for others.
I'm not saying that I don't know the status of either of those guys, but I'm
just going to say, like, health and form, it's a little gray when we're starting to decide. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Names out of it. All I'm saying is that, there seems to be different rules for different people.
Yeah, no, but that's every team, right?
Yeah, sure.
Let's face it, it's everywhere you go. And with the Gio thing, obviously that's one of the big conversations, and that was, you guys leaked that, Paul, a little bit ago. And I am not surprised at all when a manager comes out and says there's special cases, right, for players. You don't say that for everybody, right? This is a guy I still think can offer us something. The one thing we have to remember, with as few minutes as he's played, every time he's put on a U.S. jersey, he's done something, right? And he's opened up the game. We can maybe say the international game is a little bit different than the club game, and it's going to be, we're going to need a guy. We can look at the opponents and say we're going to need a guy against Paraguay who might sit a little bit deeper, that can unlock a defense, all these things. But when I listen to a manager say, sometimes there's special cases, and then the guy goes out and scores a goal, I'm like, in that game, I'm like, well, that's probably a ticket to the World Cup to me. And so again, not surprised in anything. I think the only thing that really sticks out for me is only the four midfielders with no one else. And what Tesmann did also offer you was, in a pinch, he has played as a center back as well in the three, right? So that would have been his flexibility, but obviously not in the plans for Pochettino.
All right, so that is our special emergency podcast. We're obviously going to go more in depth on Tuesday. Make sure you join us for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. And Paul, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate all your reporting, all the leaks, all the good stuff. And I know you'll be on the show very, very soon. So thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you in a couple days. We'll break it all down for you then. We'll get into more of it.